Chapter 3. So, Ilych lived for 17 years after the marriage. He was already a public persecutor of long standing and had declined several proposed transfers while awaiting for the more desired post. When an unanticipated, unpleasant occurrence quite upset the peaceful course of his life. He was expecting to be offered the post of presiding judge in the university town, but Hampy somehow came to the front and obtained the appointment instead. Ilych became irritable, reproached Hampy, and quarreled both with him and with his immediate superiors, who became colder to him and again passed him over when other appointments were made. This was in 1880, the hardest year of Ilich's life. It was then that it became evident on the one hand that his salary was insufficient for them to live on, and on the other that he hadn't been forgotten. Not only this, but that what was for him the greatest and most cruel injustice appeared to others a quite ordinary occurrence. Even his father did not consider it his duty to help him. Yet Ilych felt himself abandoned by everyone, and that they regarded his position with a salary for 3,500 rubles as quite normal and even fortunate. He alone knew that with his consciousness of this injustice done him, with his wife insistent nagging over the debts that he contracted by living beyond his means, his position was far from normal. In order to save money, that summer he obtained a leave of absence and went with his wife to live in the country and her brother's place. In the country, without his work, he experienced for the first time in his life, and not only but intolerable depression. He decided that it was impossible to go on living like that, and that it was necessary to take energetic measures. Having passed a sleepless night packing up down the veranda, he decided to go to Pittsburgh and bestir himself in order to punish those who had failed to appreciate him and to get a transfer to another ministry. Next day, despite many protests of his wife and his brother and her brother, he himself, sorry, I think he started for Pittsburgh with the sole object of obtaining a post with a salary for 5,000 rubles a year. It was no longer bent on any particular department or tendency or kind of activity. All he now wanted was appointment to another post with a salary for 5,000 rubles, either in the administration, in the bank, with the railways, in one of the Empress Maya's institutions, or even in the customs. But he has to carry with it a salary for 5,000 rubles, had been a ministry other than that in which they had failed to appreciate him. And this quest for Ilych was crowned with remarkable and unexpected success. And Kursk, an acquaintance of his, F.I. Ilych, got in the first-class carriage, sat down beside Ilych, and told him of a telegram just received by the governor of Kursk announcing that a change was about to take place in the military. Peter Ivanovich was to be superseded by Ivan Somonovich. The proposed change, apart from its significance for Russia, had a special significance for Ivan Ilych because by bringing forward a new man, Peter Petrovich, and consequently his friend Zakhar Ivanovich, it was highly favorable for Ivan Ilych since Zakhar Ivanovich was a friend and a colleague of his. In Moscow, this news was confirmed, and on reaching Pittsburgh, Ivan Ilych found Zakhar Ivanovich and received a definite promise of appointment in the former Department of Justice. A week later, he telegraphed to his wife, Zakhar, in Miller's Place, "I shall receive appointment on presentation report." Thanks to his change for personnel, Ilych had unexpectedly obtained an appointment in his former ministry, which placed him 2 states above his former colleagues, besides giving him 5,000 rubles salary and 3,500 rubles for expenses connected with his removal. All his ill humor towards his former enemies and the whole department vanished, and Illich was completely happy. He returned to the country more cheerful and contented than he had been for a long time. Praskovia Fedorovna also cheered up that the truce was arranged between them. Illich told for who he had feted by everybody in Pittsburgh how all those who had been his enemies were put to shame, and now found on him how envious they were of his appointment and how much everybody in Pittsburgh had liked him. Praskovia Fedorovna listened to all this and appeared to believe it. She did not contradict anything, but only made plans for their life in the town to which they were going. Illich saw with delight that these plans were his plans, that his wife agreed, and that after a stumble his life was regaining its due natural character for pleasant light-heartedness and decorum. Illich had come back for a short time only, for he had to take up his new duties on the 10th of September. Moreover, he needed time to settle into the new place, to move all his belongings from the province, and to buy and order many additional things. In a word, to make such arrangements as he had resolved on, which were almost exactly what Praskovia Fedorovna too had decided on. And that everything had happened so fortunately that he and his wife and one in their aims and moreover saw so little for one another, they got on together better than they had done since the first years of marriage. Ilych had thought of taking his family away with him at once, but the insistence of his wife's brother and her sister-in-law, who had suddenly become particularly amiable and friendly to him and his family, induced him to depart alone. So he departed, and the cheerful state of mind induced by his success and by the harmony between the wife and himself, the one intensifying the other, did not leave him. He found a delightful horse, the thing both he and his wife had dreamed of, spacious, lofty reception rooms in the old style, a convenient, dignified study, room for his wife and daughter, a study for his son. It might have been specially built for them. Ilych himself superintended the arrangement, chose the wallpapers, supplemented the furniture, preferably with antiques which he considered particularly comme il faut, and supervised the upholstery. Everything progressed, and approached the ideal he had set himself, even when things were only half completed, exceeded his expectations. His soul was refined and elegant character, free from vulgarity, it all hung when it was ready. On falling asleep, he pictured himself how the reception room would look. Looking at the yet unfinished drawing room, he would see the fireplace, the screen, the whatnot, the little chair dotted here and there, the dishes placed on the wall, and the bronzes, and they would be when everything was in place. He was pleased by the thought of his wife and daughter, who shared his taste in this matter, would be impressed by it. They were certainly not expecting as much. He had been particularly successful in finding and buying cheaply antiques which give a particularly aristocratic character to the whole place. But in the letters, he intentionally understated everything in order to be able to surprise them. All this so absorbed him that his new duties, so he liked his official work, interested him less than he had expected. Sometimes he even had moments of absent-mindedness during the court sessions, and would consider whether he should have street or cornices for the curtains. He was so interested in it all that he often did things himself, rearranging the furniture or rehanging the curtains. Once, when mounting a stepladder to show the upholsterer who did not understand how he wanted the hangings strapped, he made a false step and slipped. But being a strong and agile man, he clung on and only knocked his side against the knob of the window frame. The bruised place was painful, but the pain soon passed, and it felt particularly bright and well. Just then he wrote, "I feel 15 years younger." He thought he would have everything ready by September, but it dragged on till mid-October. But the result was charming not only his eyes, but to everyone who saw it. In reality, it was just what is usually seen in the houses of people of moderate means who wanted to appear rich and therefore succeeded only resembling others like themselves. There are damasks, dark wood, plants, ranks, and jewel and polished bronzes, all the things people of a certain class having in order to resemble other people of that class. His horse was so like the others that it would never have been noticed, but to him it all seemed to be quite exceptional. He was very happy when he met his family at the station and brought them to the newly furnished house, all lit up, where a footman in a white tie opened the door into the hall, decorated with plants. And they went up into the drawing room and the study, uttering exclamations of delight. He conducted them everywhere, drank in their praises eagerly, and beamed with pleasure. And tea that evening, when Praskovia Fedorovna, among other things, asked him about his fall, he laughed and showed them how he had gone flying and frightened the upholsterer. "It's a good thing I'm a bit of an athlete, and I might have been killed, but I merely knocked myself. Just here, it hurts, it hurts when it is touched, but it's passing off already. It's only a bruise." So they began living in the new home, in which, as always happens, with the gods thoroughly settled in, they found there they were just one room short, and with the increased income, which as always is just a little, some 500 rubles too little, but it was all very nice. Things went particularly well, and at first, before everything was finally arranged, while something had still to be done. The thing bought, that thing ordered, another thing moved, and something else adjusted. Though there were some disputes between husband and wife, they were both so well satisfied and had so much to do that it all passed off without any serious quarrels. When nothing was left to arrange it, it became rather dull. Something seemed to be lacking, but they were then making acquaintances, forming habits. Life was growing fuller. Even Ilych spent his mornings in the law court and came home to dinner. At first, he was generally in a good humor, though he occasionally became irritable just on account of his horse. Every spot on the tablecloth, all the upholstery, and every broken window blind strings irritated him. He had devoted so much trouble to arranging it all that every disturbance of it distressed him. But on the whole, his life ran its course, and he believed life should do, easily, pleasantly, and decorously. He got up at 9, drank his coffee, read the paper, and then put on his undress uniform and went to the law courts. There, the harness in which he worked had already been stretched to fit him, and he donned it with a hitch. Petitioners, inquiries, and the chancery itself, the settings public and administrative. In all this, the thing was to exclude everything fresh to vital, which always disturbs the regular course of official business, and to admit only official relation with the people, and only on official grounds. A man would come, for instance, wanting some information. In village, as one in whose affairs the matter did not lie, would have nothing to do with him. But if the man had some business with him in his official capacity, something that could be expressed on official stamp paper, he would do everything, possibly everything he could, within the limits of such relations, and in doing so would maintain the resemblance of friendly human relations, that is, would observe the courtesies of life. As soon as his official relation ended, so did everything else. Ilych possesses the capacity to separate his real life from the official side affair that do not mix the two in the highest degree, and by long practice and natural aptitude, had brought it to such a pitch that sometimes, in the matter for what Tolstoy, he would even allow himself to let the human and the official relations mingle. He let himself do this just because he felt that he could at any time he chose reassume the strictly official attitude again and drop the human relation. And he did it all easily, pleasantly, craftily, and even artistically. In the intervals between the sessions, he smoked, drank tea, chatted a little about the politics, a little about the general topics, a little about the cars, but most of all about the official appointments. Tired, but with the feelings of a Tolstoy, one of the first violin when he played his part in an orchestra with precision, and would return home to find that his wife and daughter had been out paying calls or hand a visitor, and that his son had been to school and done his homework with his tutor, and that was surely learning what is taught in the high schools. Everything was as it should be. After dinner, with the hand visitors, you and Ilych sometimes read a book that was being much discussed at the time, and in the evening settled down to work, that is, read official papers, compare the depositions of witnesses, and noted the paragraphs of the code applying to them. This was either dull nor amusing. It was dull when he might have been playing bridge, but if no bridge was available, it was really better than doing nothing or sitting with his wife. Ilich's chief pleasure was giving a little dinner to which he wanted men and women a good social position, and as his drawing room resembled all other drawing rooms, so did his enjoyable little party resemble all other such parties. Once they even gave a dance, Illich enjoyed it, and everything went off well, except that it led to a violent quarrel with his wife about the cakes and the sweets. Prince Sylvia from the Romina had made her own plans, but even Lich insists on getting everything from expensive confectioner and ordered too many cakes, and the quarrel occurred because some of those cakes were left over, and the confectioner's bill came to 45 rubles. It was a great disagreeable quarrel. Prince Kavya from the Novena called him a fool and imbecile, and clenched his head and made an angry allusion to divorce. But the dance itself had been enjoyable. The best people were there. They went and danced with Princess Sofowina, a sister for the disgraced founder of the society, bear my burden. The pleasure connected with his work were pleasures of ambition, and the social pleasure were those of vanity, but Ivanich's greatest pleasure was playing bridge. He acknowledged that whatever disagreeable incident happened in his life, the pleasure that beamed like ray of light above everything else was to sit down to bridge with good players, not noisy partners, but of course to four-handed bridge. With five players, it was annoying to have to stand out, so one pretended not to mind, to play a clever and serious game when the cards allowed it, and then to have a supper and to drink a glass of wine. After the game of bridge, especially if he had won a little, to win A large sum was unpleasant. Ilych went to bed in especially good humor. So they lived. They formed a circle of acquaintances among the best people, visited by people of importance and by young folk, in a way that to their acquaintances, husband, wife, daughter were entirely agreed, and tacitly and unanimously kept at arm's length, and shook off the various shabby friends in relation to with much show of affection gashed into the drawing room with its Japanese plates on the walls. Soon these shabby friends ceased to obtrude themselves, only the best people remained in the Galovin's set. Young man made out to Lisa, and Patricichev, examining magistrates, and Dmitri Ivanovich, Patricichev's son, and Zoya began to be so attentive to her that Ivan Ilyich had already spoken to Praskovia Fedorovna about it, and considered whether they should not arrange a party for them to get up some private theatricals. So the lead and all went well without change, and life flowed pleasantly.